I think Claire wanted me to do a rundown about accountability, work ethic, and I think one major thing where you really find true accountability is from self-awareness. I think one major thing I learned, I'd say in the last year or two of my life, after my college career, was that I'm accountable for my own happiness. I'm accountable for my own decisions. I'm accountable for my own journey in life. And I moved back home right before the COVID situation, and I remember speaking with my parents about this, having them talk about how they noticed my self-awareness, and they noticed how I was just a lot more accountable for my own actions, my own decisions. Every decision I made was for me, by me. And it's pretty liberating. And it's something I wish if I could go back to my last couple years of high school, first couple years of college, I'm like, oh, if I knew this back then, you know, the world was it was in my hands. But to be 25 and kind of figuring this stuff out now, it's great. And I think having a panel like this and talking to a lot of young athletes and giving them this knowledge and these tools is excellent for sure. Because I will say this, whether it's basketball, whether it's school, relationships, whether it be friendships or romantic relationships, I think accountability is a number one thing that we all have to have. But I think it's a major thing that we lack in today's society. I think a lot of people like to point fingers. A lot of people like to blame others. I knew for myself, when I ran into injuries in my career, I was kind of just feeling woe was me, feeling sorry for myself, when in reality it was my life. I could make the decision. I was accountable for deciding, am I going to give it up and just let myself go? Am I going to move on, or am I going to be accountable for the hard work that I put in up until this point in my life? And am I going to continue that work ethic? Am I going to build myself back up to continue doing what I want to do? And I think a lot of things come down to just one decision, right? And it could be scary, but if you're very self-aware and you hold yourself accountable, then things coming down to one decision, it won't be a scary thing. It's kind of like destiny. It's like your journey. Hardest would have probably been my year at Orangeville Prep. Just because, but many others might. I didn't grow up a basketball player. I grew up in a small hockey town, so obviously I grew up a hockey player, played lacrosse. So when I got to high school and it was time to make a decision, either you play high school sports, or you just stick with hockey, I shocked the world and said, you know what, I think I'm going to go be a basketball player. So going to my prep school, it was a tough year because I really only had a 6 to 7 month window of NCAA recruiting for a kid that's never played basketball in the States before. So when I say hard, I just mean like it was a grind. Like every day I had to make a mental decision to stay in the gym, whether I was tired, sore, whatever. I just had to make a decision that somebody out there has 4, 5, 6 years of just being in the gym, working on me. So it's like I had to make up for that in 1 year. And realistically, it wasn't possible, but I was so determined that this year I'm NCAA or bust, that from a physical standpoint and mental standpoint, it was hard because when you pick up an offer and then go to a next tournament, you hear there's big schools there and you're excited, and then all of a sudden after the game, you don't hear from them. It was tough because it's like, why am I doing this? You know, like I got this school and this school, and I was getting a lot of Canadian schools, but I had that coming out of high school. So I think for physically and mentally, it was hard. It was a hard year, but going through that helped me more so in just life as a whole. Like learning that work ethic, it was instilled in me at a young age, but being able to move away from home and have that work ethic for my first year away from home by myself, it showed me that whatever I put my mind to, I can really accomplish a lot. And sometimes you're going to fail, but I don't really look at things as like wins and losses anymore. You either win or you learn. I don't really like the term loss anymore, because even when you don't achieve what you're hoping for, I feel like you're still gaining so much because you're gaining so much information and you learn how to do it better the next time. The most fun I'd say was just my year at Windsor. NCAA basketball is very it's strict. It's very hard-nosed. I had a very old-school coach who played old-school style basketball, and my style of play just really didn't fit that school. So that it was tough going through there. But coming back to Windsor, it was like freedom. Um, Being able to play in a Canadian system, it's a lot more open and free, kind of like professional style. I had the opportunity to play with one of my better friends that I have now, Mike Rocca. I played with his older brother, Joe, with the Honey Badgers as well. And that year was just fun. We traveled to Amsterdam. I took a couple trips to Ottawa. Didn't win in Ottawa. But yeah, it was just a fun year all around. Coming there originally, I'm coming back to Canada. I was like, oh man, like it's so different than being in the States. It just wasn't as serious. It wasn't as, at least Windsor's program at the time, it wasn't as serious. A lot of stuff I was doing was just Mike and I in the gym. It wasn't really team oriented, but it was just a fun year. Like we ended up making an OUA Final Four run. And I just loved it. It was just a great year overall, very fun experience. A lot of people would think I would say professional. I won't lie, getting my first game check, that was pretty exciting. But the most fun was definitely my year at Windsor. That was just a fun year. Good group of guys. Practices were fun. A lot of intense workouts. So yeah, I would say that was definitely my most fun year. Like, don't close those doors, because number one, youth sport basketball has grown tremendously since when I came out of high school. I left Orangeville Prep in 2013 to see where it is now in 2020. Even my year at Windsor at 2017-18, like I was shocked at how good the basketball was, because I feel like it's talked down a lot. But now it's like sometimes I wonder, it's like maybe I should have came back home 2-3 years earlier, because it was excellent basketball, and it turned my career around. I'm coaching this year, but I plan on going back to playing in 2021. And I'll be very honest, everything I learned in the States and my time there is great, but the amount of basketball knowledge I've gained from coming back home and being home and being around youth sport basketball has been amazing. And part of the reason that I had that opportunity is because I didn't close those doors. When I went through my recruitment process, I didn't just cater to the NCAA schools. When I still remember Chris Oliver isn't the coach there anymore, but he was the coach at the time I went to Windsor. And I remember he took me out for a meal after one of my games here in Canada. And a lot of guys were wondering why I went and did that. I would go sit and have meals with coaches, different coaches like Ryerson. The Ryerson coaches took me to Italy, for example, and that was an amazing trip. And now I'm connected with Patrick Tatum, and he's over at McMaster. So I've made a lot of connections that way, just from leaving those doors open. It also gave me the opportunity to come back to Canada. When I wanted to leave my school in the States, I was thinking about going to other American schools. And when I made the announcement that I was in the transfer portal, a lot of Canadian schools started messaging me, and that's when the light bulb kind of came in my head. Like, maybe it's time to go home. Maybe it's time to go back north of the border. And I'll be honest, it saved my career. It changed everything for me. Coming out of the States, I was like, you hear it a lot of situations, people go down there and it's different. It's just a different world down there, especially with sports. And I didn't have my last 2 years there. It was really a lot of injuries, a lot of button head with my coach. And I wasn't sure what I want to do with my future of basketball, and youth sport basketball turned that around for me completely. So I definitely agree that I know a lot of people's, like I said, when I was at Orangeville, for me, like mentally, it was NCAA or bust, meaning that like I had to have that mindset to really work and grind. But I still spoke to all my youth sport coaches with the utmost respect, and understood that that's top level basketball. Even when I was at my year at Orangeville Prep, we scrimmaged a couple of different youth sport teams, and we were in high school. We were all high school seniors and fifth year guys, but they handled us. Like, they handled us. And now coming back to Canada, even when I first came back, I'll be honest, I thought a little bit, I was a little cocky, a little feeling myself. I thought it was going to be a cakewalk, and I learned quick that, like, no, these guys can play. In Canadian basketball, especially at the university level, youth sport basketball has grown a lot. And there's a couple guys this year that were on the fence of taking low major D1 offers or staying home and playing in Canada. And a couple of them made the decision to, two of them went out and played at going to St. FX next year. A couple are playing in Ontario. And I think it's a great decision for them. I think youth sport basketball is amazing. And even when Claire talked about CEBL, a lot of my guys I know just in the basketball world that I've played with or played against that are in the CEBL Summer Series right now. A lot of those guys are all U Sport guys. My boy Rashawn Brown's playing for Saskatchewan right now. He did the NCAA route. He went to New Mexico State, played in the same conference I did in the States when he transferred, went to California, PA, and then he ended up coming back to Canada and went to Manitoba. And I know a lot of people were looking at him like, why would you go to Manitoba when you're at New Mexico State? And now he's signed his first pro contract, so he's going overseas next year. So some people are going to say what they want to say about Canadian basketball, but U Sport basketball is tremendous. It's very high paced, very competitive, and I'll be honest, it was very, very fun. A lot of those games were very, very competitive, and it's just good basketball. There's not much more I can say. It's very good basketball. So from a basketball standpoint, but even just making connections, it's so important to keep those doors open for your life after your playing career, to continue your playing career, whatever. Maybe it has nothing to do with basketball. They connect you in another way, but I think keeping those doors open are so important. And understand that U Sport basketball, like those are top athletes in the country. And you even see some Americans come up and play in U Sport. That's how good this basketball is now. For me, the way I look at it is I know a lot of coaches like to think like we're one team, we're one heart, like one person messes up, we're all in trouble. For me, sometimes when it comes to dealing with young people, and me myself still being only 25, the way I looked at how I had my first college coach being that really old school, like everybody's accountable for everybody. It worked with our one team, and we ended up winning a conference championship. The other teams, it didn't work, and it blew up. And whereas I looked at how Oliver did it, or some other coaches I've had throughout my career, where it's like, listen, I'm not going to hold your hand. Like, it's time for you to be a young man, young woman. You're accountable for your own journey and your destiny. And really instilling that in them, like, whether it's they transferred to go to another school because they wanted to be, or they came to a certain basketball program because they want to get better. And saying, when you came here, you made this commitment, right? So one thing I want to do with my athletes this year is I want them all to write a commitment statement to themselves about why they committed to coming to the prep school, like what made them want to go to prep school. Because what you'll see a lot is like day one's easy. Everybody's excited. Everybody's wide-eyed, whether it's the high school level, prep school level, university, college, whatever it may be. Day one is the easiest day on earth. How are you going to be on day 101? And a lot of people don't make it to on day 101 because I think they forget about that reason for being there. So that would be my first thing, is just to keep flipping back to that as like, why did you decide to come here, right? Whether it's I wanted better competition, or I wanted to become a better leader, I wanted to become a better teammate, I wanted more exposure. Whatever that commitment is, whatever you decided that, like we'll bring that back up. Because I feel like what gets lost a lot in team sports like basketball is the individuality. And I've seen a lot of coaches try to coach all their players the same way when everybody's different. Everybody's their own individual. Everybody's unique. Everybody comes from a different background, whether it's their economic background, their social background, ethnic background. So you can't really coach everybody the same because they're not the same. So I think understanding that helps too on who you're going to hold accountable for what. And then I think that makes it easier to delegate certain positions for people. When people talk about roles on a basketball team, I think they always think position roles, or this guy's going to be a scorer, this guy's going to be a passer, this guy's going to be a grinder, he's going to get rebounds. What about your role on the team as a leader? Like, who's the guy that's going to grab somebody up in a more physical way and be like, hey, like, come on, like, get your act together, like, get it together? Who's going to be the guy on the team that's more consoling? It's going to go around and touch everybody and say, like, hey, how you doing today? Da, da, da. Like, I feel like it's important to delegate those roles to players to empower them. So I feel like when they feel empowered, they're more willing to be accountable for their actions, right? If you make them feel empowered, you make them feel like it's their decision, it's their choice, they're going to want to be more accountable. And I think that was the big difference between what I seen. See, my journey with my team in the States was pretty crazy. My first 2 years, we had a lot of seniors. We had a lot of guys who were just very mature, good head on their shoulders. And after that year, we won. the recruitment we brought in a lot of JUCO transfers, a lot of project guys, like that would have been like projects, getting them to fall in line with the culture and the system, and it didn't work and it blew up. And a lot of it was just not making us feel that we were young men, right? We were told to act like young men, but we weren't treated that way. So a lot of us didn't know how to be accountable for our actions if we were being told what to do, what to wear, how to talk, how to walk, what to eat, when to go to sleep. So it's like, how are you accountable for anything if all your decisions are made for you? And I think if you're talking about younger ages, I think it's still something that could be instilled in a younger age. Let these younger kids feel that like you are in control, like you get to make your decisions. I feel like it's very, very empowering. And I feel like the younger you do it, the more it will become ingrained into the culture of the program or the team, but also that culture of that athlete, like how they're going to step into the gym or how they're going to step into the workout, how they're going to step into the classroom. Cause that's another thing is like athletes and their grades. Some athletes is just second nature. Like they're just, they're in the books, they're in school. Some athletes it comes easier. But some athletes is a big struggle. And I've seen a lot of athletes not maximize their potential on the basketball court because they couldn't get by in class. Right. And I think a lot of it was being told that they weren't as smart, or maybe people were holding their hands a little bit. It's like, listen, if you want to play basketball, you have to go to school, right? Unless you're Jalen Green, unless you're 6'7", jumping out the gym, you got to go to school to play basketball, right? And so you're accountable for that. Nobody else is. And I think the younger you start that, it won't scare people to hear that at 18. If you tell them at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 that they're accountable, like this is your decision, you are the master of your own destiny, then I feel like it empowers them and it builds that culture within them. So if you think about it, if you get 3 or 4 kids on that team that already think that way, and the other 7 or 8 kids have to build in that, now it's not just that. I know every coach has that one kid where it's like, oh, I wish I had 5 of them, right? Because it's mentally, they just get it, right? They're such an extension of you. And my thing is like, instead of just so focusing on that one kid, is like, why not try to build more kids and make them more accountable, right? Because now then you do have 4 or 5 unique individuals that carry that same type of thought process, that same type of work ethic. And I think that's very, very contagious. Just like a negative attitude can be contagious. You can have a cancerous player that blows things up. That positive attitude can be very, very contagious and turn into something beautiful. So I think that'd be my big thing, was especially going into my first year of coaching, is just letting the players know it's not my team, right? Like, yeah, I'll give you the X's and O's. I'm going to train you. I'm going to show you different things. I'm going to help your game. I'm going to help you develop in the young men. But ultimately, you're on the court. You're the one making decisions. You're the one playing, right? So you're accountable. So I want them to feel like this is your team, right? This is your season. This is your year. It's not about me. It's about them. And I'd say that would be the biggest thing, is empowering players so that they understand that how important accountability is, right? And I'll be honest, with the whole COVID situation going on, I'm not sure how financially, like how smart it would be financially to make that decision to go play. I had a lot of my friends get stuck overseas this year when everything took off. And then honestly, for me, through coaching, I had an injury this year. So I had to get myself back in shape, get back. And I think the other coaches can attest to this, is like through coaching, your own game. Like, I love coaching. It's a very selfish thing to volunteer and coach, and well, I'm getting paid to do it now, but to coach it's really great to give back and teach the youth. Also, selfishly, it's making me a lot better of a basketball player. So for me, it was like, if I can spend a year to get paid to go to the gym every day and train, because the way I train athletes is I think most athletes learn best through visual, or through actually going through it and doing it. So the way I like to train and coach athletes is, I'm going to show you. I'm going to be in the workout with you. I'm going to be on the court with you. I'm going to play. I'm going to run with you. So for me, it was like, if I can get paid to just come to the gym every day and work out, like, for me, it was a no-brainer, especially with what's going on in the world. So I got blessed with that opportunity. I was very fortunate to be given that opportunity. Growth for sure. I'd say growth for sure. I don't think it's never too early to grow, and it's never too late to grow. I feel like you're constantly growing and changing throughout life. And if you're not, why not? Like, what's the issue? There's never a point in your life where you're just the best, whether it be basketball, life as a person. For me as a man, is just about for me, I'd say growth. It was me finding out, like, what does it mean to be a decent man, right? And I know even when I first met you, I'd say the growth I've found from that date until sitting here now talking to you on this Zoom call, I'd say growth that was my word of 2019, was just growth. Right? And that was my focus. And for some of the younger ones in this chat, like, you'll find out when life hits, it's just growth, man. Just growth. I think growth and resilience tie in a lot to each other, because it's not easy to grow. It's difficult. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes you don't see a reason to the process, but I'd say definitely growth in everything. As an athlete, as a person, as a student, is just so important to just continue to grow. We can't all be caterpillars forever. You gotta turn into a butterfly at some point.